Hi class, today we continue our discussions with a presentation on some of the new features introduced in HTML5. A couple of words about HTML5 and CSS3 before we look at the new features. HTML5 was specifically designed for web applications on all platforms, and it updates HTML 4.01. CSS3 is expected to make it easier to do complex things and complex designs to look the same across all the browsers including mobile, and it updates CSS 2.1. Okay, um, quick summary of what I just said. HTML5 and CSS3 bring many great features as well as fix problems with the existing implementations. HTML5 introduces new semantic tags and powerful application programming interfaces, also known as JavaScript interfaces for web applications, whereas CSS3 makes it easier to achieve real-world designs and layouts with sophisticated typography. There's an interesting website, www.html5test.com, that allows you to test your browser and see how well it scores in terms of compatibility with HTML5. Now, I tried this with my two browsers on my desktop, and for my Firefox browser, I got a score of 472, I believe. For my Internet Explorer version 11, I got a score of 303, 303, a pretty poor score. And then here are some snapshots of other possible scores, but it's really interesting thing you can try with your own browser. Go to www.html5test.com and check out how well your browser score. You can do that on your mobile devices as well. HTML5 overview. It's the newest version of HTML for the time being. It's still under development. It's always being improved, and it's being developed by the World Wide Web Consortium. They started it in 2007. Parts of HTML5 have been implemented in a lot of browsers, um, and some of those have been implemented even before the specification became ready. They expected it to finish by 2014, I believe. So today's browsers pretty much should conform to HTML5. Not all of them do, and people use older version browsers as well, so keep that in mind as you're programming. Uh, One of the goals for HTML5 was to make obsolete the plugin based rich internet applications. These are technologies such as Adobe Flash, Microsoft Silverlight, and Sun's Java FX. These are all technologies that I studied in graduate school, and they're still being used, but like I said, the HTML5, one of the goals that it has is to make these obsolete and to basically solve problems like the one that you're seeing right now. Okay, so hopefully once it's completed implemented in the browsers, we're never going to see crash screens again that are linked to plugin based applications. Some of the other goals listed here, it's aimed to have all the power of native applications will run on any platform. The HTML, CSS, and JavaScript collectively combined all the features of this new technology, reduces the need for external plugins, better error handling, and more markup to replace scripting. Now these are the tags. If you recall, last week I posted an HTML5 skeleton in our weekly folder. These here are the four main tags that we need to make sure we have in our HTML web pages from now on. The doc type should be specified as HTML. We should set the language. We should set the character set encoding, and Whenever we need to use JavaScript, we use the script tag. And that's the template. Well, it's almost identical to the template that I uploaded in our weekly folder. Um, these are the 28 new elements that were introduced by HTML5 and that aim to help improve the design of your web page. I'm not going to read all of these. You can read these on your own. This is really just a really nice summary on 2 slides, um, basically describing all this new functionality. So we will spend more time with audio, video, Canvas. Not all of these, but we are going to use at least half of these in the weeks to follow. We have new tags for page layout. This is probably one of the most important points in this table that you see here. Today, if we wanted to mark up a layout for a web page, we normally use a lot of divs. People still do use divs because they want their web pages to run on all the browsers. They allow us to specify different sections of the web page. What HTML5 does for us is it introduces a set of new tags specifically designed for the layout. So what you're seeing here is how our web pages are going to change. We're going to use header, nav, article, section, aside, and footer. Quick side-by-side comparison. And that's your older div approach that you see on the left, and that's your newer HTML5 approach that you see on the right. In our code, these are the new tags: section, header, nav, article, aside, and footer. The elements like header and footer are not meant to be only at the top and the bottom of the page. I did mention this last week. Header and footer may be included with each document section. Not very different from div tag, but are more semantically well defined in the document structure. Okay, this is the older approach with divs, and this here is the newer approach with the HTMLs. We now have header, a nav, or could have a section, article, footer, and figures as well. In our code, here's what the newer tags are going to look like. Okay, the article is normally used for external content like text from a news article, a blog, a forum, or any other external source. The aside is for content aside from, but related to, the content it is placed in. And the details is for describing details about a document or parts of a document. The summary is used for captions or summary inside the details element. The mark for text that should be highlighted. The nav is for a section of navigation. Section is used for a section in a document, things like chapters, headers, footers. And WBR is for word break, for defining an appropriate place to break a long word or a sentence. And some other tags that we can use in HTML5 are command, data list, progress. The figure element, it allows for associating captions with embedded content, including images, audios, and videos. Okay, so in between, well, part of the figure element allows you, the figure tag allows you to include images, audios, or videos, or any combination of those. Here's another way to visualize this. And here's an example of the meter element that we saw last week being used. Okay, one more example. This one has 4 main components of a web page. It's got a masthead with navigation. It has an article in the main content area. It's got a sidebar with tangential information. And it has a footer. This is how it's split in the form of basic drawing. Use the header, nav, article, section, aside, footer, and div elements to define structure of pages. Except for the div, none of those elements existed prior to HTML5. And another format, of course, still uses the divs as containers. Maybe a good way to structure your code if you need to style it with CSS. Example that shows a whole unordered list being used in the header. And I would advise you to check out another web page, html5advanced.com, for more information on what's coming up. Now, multimedia tags. We're going to need this for our teamwork project number 4. The two media tags we're going to use are audio and video. And the basic syntax is shown down here. If you want to insert a video in your web page, you use the video element, and if you want to insert an audio, you use the audio. Currently, video and audio in a web page are best handled by plugins, as we mentioned earlier. Flash, Silverlight, QuickTime. But these tags can be used, well, pretty much like the image tags, so they're going to become commonplace once all the browsers support all HTML5 features. Web pages will need to define how video and audio should be played though. Controls, interface, etc. So, scrolling down, looking at the media tags. Audio, the attributes are autoplay, controls, loop, and source. For the video tag, attributes are autoplay, controls, loop, height, width, and source. The source element is used when you want to upload multiple audio or video elements. Okay. All right. Now let's take a look at the video attributes. Width. Width sets the width of the video element in pixels. If the width is omitted, the browser will use the default width of the video if it's available. Height sets the height of the video element. If the height is omitted, the browser will use the default height of the video if it's available. Source sets the video file to be played. For each, you should supply video formats that are supported by the most popular browsers. Poster sets the image file that will be displayed while the video content is being loaded, or until the user plays the video. If a poster file is omitted, the browser will show the first frame of the video. Autoplay instructs the browser to automatically play the video when the page is loaded. Controls displays the video controls to control the video playback. The controls are visible when the user hovers over a video. It's also possible to tab through the controls, to use the tab key on the keyboard. Loop instructs the browser to loop the media playback, and auto buffer is used when the autoplay is not used. The video is downloaded in the background, so when the user does decide to watch the video, it starts immediately. Okay. Here's an example of a video showing up on a web page and how it could be set up with the video element. Next example that we see is for audios, inserting audio in our code. So this is one possible way to set up an audio. Now, what are some of the attributes for the audio element? We've got source. As you might imagine, this one specifies the audio file to be played. For each, you should supply audio formats that are supported by the most popular browsers. Preload can be either none, metadata, or auto, where metadata means preload just the metadata, and auto leaves the browser to decide whether to preload the whole file or not. As you've probably guessed, controls displays the audio controls, and autoplay instructs the browser to automatically play the audio when the page is loaded. Loop instructs the browser to loop the media playback, and muted sets the default audio output. Okay. Canvas is another tag or another element that has been introduced in HTML5. Before the advent of HTML5, people could not draw on the web. Canvas is a really nice new feature that allows you to draw uh, directly onto the web page. It has several methods for drawing paths, boxes, and circles and characters and adding images. It consists of a drawable region, which is called a canvas, defined in HTML code with height and width attributes. Here's an example. This one example, the canvas has a width of 200 pixels and a height of 100 pixels. And then JavaScript code may be used to access the area through a full set of drawing functions similar to those of other common two-dimensional application programming interfaces. Thus, the HTML5 canvas element allows for dynamically generated graphics, drawing on a web page, and interactions such as zooming in and out. Some anticipated uses of canvas include building graphs, animations, games, and image composition. Um, the canvas element uses JavaScript to draw the graphics on the web page. It's a rectangular area that you control every pixel of. It has several methods for drawing paths, boxes, circles, characters, and even adding images. So this example here just illustrated how we could add a canvas to our web page. With the red square here being an example of how to draw one. Actually, it's a red rectangle being drawn on the canvas. Okay, draw a line by specifying where to start and where to stop is the next example. Okay, and like I mentioned earlier, you could even implement basic computer games within the HTML5 canvas element. SVG is another feature that has been introduced with HTML5, the scalable vector graphics. It's a World Wide Web Consortium recommendation for vector-based graphics for the web, and it's an alternative for Canvas. Okay, and here's the code that shows you how to draw a red circle using SVG. It defines the graphics in XML format. SVG graphics don't lose any quality if they're zoomed or resized. Every element and every attribute in SVG files can be animated. Okay. The date and time controls, yet another new feature in HTML5. We did spend some time with these last week. So I'm not gonna go over the slides again. They are included in this presentation here because they are part of the HTML5 new features. The numerical inputs with examples, the color selector, got over that as well, the progress, and the meter selector. Okay, I want to stop here with the new HTML features, and we'll take a look at a more in-depth look at using audio and video elements on our web pages, as well as a more in-depth look at Canvas and SVG in the days to come. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.